Good afternoon everyone and welcome back to another episode of Rift Amps. Okay, so I couldn't find the exact schematic for the Fenton Whale Hornet, but the Selma Corvette, the topology is actually exactly the same. Exactly the same amplifier. The only difference is that Selma and Fenton Whale have used slightly different values throughout the circuit, but it's the same board, exactly the same layout and board. Whether it was for reliability or for tonal consideration throughout the years, we don't know, but most of the values are pretty close, if not the same. For example, the Selma has 47k mixer resistors, and this has 56k's, so next step up. Plate load resistors on the preamp stage, 100k's in the Selma, 120k's in the Fenton. So maybe they just did slightly different versions just to get the amp sounding slightly differently. Who knows? Anyway, so this thing, it sits between channel input 1 here and the volume pot. So rather than going unlike channel 2 where it goes straight from the input socket to the volume pot, this is sitting in between. And I've looked at loads of pictures and examples of the Hornet online, and I can't see this elsewhere in the amp, in any of them. So I assume it's aftermarket, it's been added for a reason. Is that the reason that, because he's saying that one channel sounds really ugly and the other sounds slightly ugly, and when I looked at the schematic I said, well, you know, they both mix, they both go to a volume control, then through the mixer resistor straight into the grid of the ECC83. So, you know, unless the issue was with the mixer resistors or the volume controls, then it doesn't kind of make sense. But actually, when you look in the amp, we've got this thing going on. I'm going to remove it from the circuit and put it back to stock. I want to recap it, so I'm going to do all the electrolytics in the amp. Then we can take it from there and see what the amp needs to get going properly. But yeah, whatever this thing is, I'm going to pull it out. Right, so I've got the Hustler Orange out of cabinet in there. Now, I'm confused because this is definitely a 2 output valve 50 watt amp, even though the chassis has the holes for 4. It's the same chassis used on the big 120 watt amps. But it has the model number of the 120 watt amps, and as far as I can tell, the 60 watt model, whatever it was, wasn't ever available as a 2x12. So what is it? Test date is the 2nd of October 1975. I don't know if that's coming up, but that's there. Anyway, it's come in because he said it let some smoke out 2 years ago and he hasn't turned it on since. So, giving it a visual inspection, I don't actually see much wrong with it other than it's a bit grubby. Can't see any burnt resistors, anything like that. Foot switch socket is covered up by some tape and is actually falling apart. So we need to work out what's going on there. I mean, it's literally just come out. So we're going to need to have a look at that, see what's what, see if we can't find the correct replacement for him. Now, I've looked online. There is a schematic for the 125 watt version, but nothing for the 50 that I can see anyway. I'll keep looking. But these 4 Nichicon electrolytics aren't looking too healthy. They are bulging. Looks like someone's been in before and replaced some other caps, so it has been looked after. The LCR filter caps actually look well, there's no signs of bulging. We can test them on our high voltage tester to see if anything comes up. If anyone can tell me anything about these amps, more than what I can find from a quick Google, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to know more about these things. I found a Facebook post from Orange themselves, and they said this was their attempt to get more Fender users over to Orange. That kind of makes sense because, well, I mean, it's pretty much a twin reverb, isn't it? With a slightly British flavour. Right, so as I can't see anything obviously wrong with it, I'm going to fire it up on the test bench in restriction mode with the light bulb limiter, and start taking some voltage measurements. See if we can work out what's going on. See if we can work out why it did what it did. Right, Fenton Whale Hornet, yeah. So done. I've just popped the chassis back in the cabinet. Unfortunately, two of the mounting, the bottom two mounting bolts, they were captive in the cabinet. Unfortunately, they started spinning, so I've had to, unfortunately, put some through, remove those and then put some of those in. I thought, oh, okay, I'll just do the other two on the other side, and then it's matching. But those two are firm in there, won't come out. So it is what it is. So chassis, I've redone all the electrolytics, the 3 filters and the 2 bypass. There was a resistor here that 56k. It drifted up almost to 100k. So, and that's in the B plus rail. So that needed doing. General service, clean the pots, returned it to stock, and it works and it sounds great, and the bias is bang on. So not really much else to do on that apart from, you'll enjoy this. So here's the original plug, and when that failed, someone simply wired on a new plug. Although this is quite old as well. But if you look, they left on the old cap cover. So I've now got to, can't have that dangling around. So I've either got to unsolder the mains cable and through, or just cut it off. And I think I'll just cut it off, that'd be easier. Back panel on. You remember the grill cloth on the rear panel was loose. I've glued that back on. Just holding that in place with masking tape until that dries. Then that can go back together, and we can sign this amp off and done. Everything works as it should. Really happy with it. No complaints. Job done. Orange on the bench. It is. I gave it a soft start. All seemed to be okay. Gave it full power. All seems to be okay. I've just been taking some voltage measurements. Everything seems to be alright. I can't really measure anything that's not what you'd expect it to be. However, I did come across this resistor here, which is sitting around this valve, and it appears to be the plate supply for that triode, and it's very hot. Well, sorry, it got hot, but there's voltage one side and there is voltage the other, although it is quite high. Got 419 volts one side of it and 409 the other, which seems quite high to me. I need to find out what this position is doing. And exactly what's going on there, but that was clearly the resistor that got hot. I think it's probably the reverb driver, but I need to look into it more, work it out. But whatever that resistor was, it got hot, but if we measure the pins, and pin 9, pin 8, which is the cathode, 3 volts, pin 6, 410. So that's our supply there, pin 6, pin 7, and the millivolt range. So it's, I think that's the reverb driver. So it's definitely zoning in on where our issue is, but the amps at idle, pulling 70 watts out the wall. Output valves appear to be in good shape, although they are very rattly and noisy, so they might be due for replacement anyway. But that's, I wonder if it's a reverb problem, something in the reverb circuit. We shall continue investigating. Right, so I've got to finish off this. This is actually a low power Americana. They normally come in, we normally do them in fawn, but this guy wanted it in grey tweed. So I've just got to fit the handle. We go for a black leather style handle on these. On the fawn ones you get brown. Got the T-nuts and screws. Got to drill the chassis bolts, fit the speaker, reverb tank in the bottom in a bag, and then warning labels and stuff. And then we should all be ready to get this to the customer, because he has been waiting very patiently, and I really appreciate that. So, but I've just been waiting. It takes so long to get bits now. You would not believe how long I've been waiting to get this handle. Anyway, let's crack on. Okay, so first thing I need to do is the chassis mounting hole. So here's our template chassis. I've already got the centre of the chassis marked, but how do we know how far left or right, or indeed how far back or forwards we need to mount that chassis? Now, you've seen me do it on the PR style cabs, but I'll show you on this as well. We need to find the centre point of the cabinet from left to right. Easiest way to do that is to take the rear panel. It obviously neatly fits in that gap. Spin it over, bit of masking tape on, and we're going to find the centre of this. Now, it is roughly, bear in mind this is an Imperial style cab, so it's 18, just over 18. That's in fact 18 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 18 and 5/16. So we'll call it 18 and a quarter to start with. Half of 18 and a quarter is 9 and 1/16. No, 1/8. 9 and 1/8, sorry. And like I did before, I'm just going to measure in from each side of roughly that distance using a set square. Off it up. So I need 3 hands to do this. So we'll put our line there. And then we'll come in and we'll do the same from the other side. And look, actually, it's bang on. Knock that up. So there you go. And that gives me the centre point of this. So now I can put that in. I can move this here, move this into place, and I can line up the 2 lines. Now, I might not get the perspective right on the camera, but I'm going to do this perfectly with my eyeballs. There it is. It's difficult to do on camera. Yeah. Make sure that's as far back as it needs to go. Now, on these style chassis, you've actually got an oval hole. So I'm just going to mark roughly. And if we just mark along the outside, that gives us just a reference point as well, should we lose that mark. So and we can kind of see where I want them to be. So next step, I need to be kind of halfway on there, so if I just kind of roughly mark that out, halfway along. Then I can use my square again to get that measurement, allowing for the thickness of the pencil. What's that? 1 1 3/8 of an inch. So we can just come and transfer that directly across to this side. And that then gives me my centre point that I can then drill. It's as easy as that, it really is. Right, so I'll drill those and then we'll do the handle. So in my drawer of tweed mounting bolts, now these are actually an imperial size, but as most of you will know, imperial size drill bits in the UK aren't common. Most of us will just have metric sizes. So what I've got is bought this from Screwfix. It cost me about 3 to 4 quid, I think. And all you do is you take you offer it up to each of the holes. These are the metric holes here. It's smaller than 6. Perfect at 5. It's just slightly smaller than 5, which is what I want, because 4.5 doesn't go. Probably something like 4.8, but if you've even got a set of dial calipers, you can use that. I'll get the dial calipers. Alexa, stop. Sorry. 4.65. There you go. Oh, actually, 0 that. Yeah, so it'll be 4.8. So you had a 4.8mm drill bit, that'll be fine, but 5mm will work. Right, and finally for the handle location, you've got, unlike on the PRs where you don't go from the top point to the back and find your halfway. On the PRs you do it to the, it's got the extra slants, you do it to the point. On here we do simply go halfway, so this one measures roughly 9 3/4. Half of 9 3/4 is be 4.5 plus 3/8, whatever that is. So we'll go 1 2 3 4.5 plus 3/8. 1 2 3, there it is. And then all I do is simply measure from the back, get some masking tape down. That'll be my datum, that's where my handle goes. Whoops, I kind of skipped ahead a bit. So speaker is mounted, reverb tank is in, cables in there, chassis is mounted and drilled with the support bracket as well, handles on, safety plate on the rear, badge on the front. This one is done, so can now give it a final play test, then we can box it up and arrange shipping. What else was I going to say? Can't remember. But yeah, that's an Americana LP, which is our low power one, which has the 25 watt G12A. It's a really good speaker, that I really like it. It's just a shame that, one, they're so expensive, and two, they're quite rare at the moment. So, but yeah, it's what it is. But there you go, that's a Americana done. Really happy with that. It's looking great on top. So there we go, lovely grey tweed. Like I said, these normally come in the fawn, the low power ones, but he wanted grey tweed, so we do that with the silver plate and the black knobs, whereas the fawn ones get the gold plate with the cream knobs. But there you go. Anyway, crack on. Well, I've just finished putting together the PR18 that I've been building over the last couple of weeks. I showed you the cab before, the green and basket weave. Well, we finished assembly now. It's got the gold plate on. I think he went for the cream knobs like we put on the Ainsley. It looks really nice, actually. Really pleased with that. Standard G12C in the back. Rear plate looking good. Actually really happy with this amp. One slight issue is that this handle cap is loose and rattles a bit. So I've got a new handle on order, because I've run out, of course. It's quite annoying that I did try and bend it into place, but it doesn't quite work, so not good enough. So we'll get that sorted before customer gets it. But apart from that, there you go, PR18 in British Racing Green, basket weave, gold plates, cream knobs. And I think he wanted a yellow amber jewel light as well. So yeah, really happy with that one. Good work, good result. So we've got here a this is a Fender Princeton reissue that I did a hand-wired conversion on a very long time ago, 8, 9, 10 years ago. It's come back in for service, a couple of tweaks on it, bring it up to our latest spec. I try not to do hand-wired conversions. They are vastly more expensive than you'd expect them to be, so we try and stay away from them. But that's come in, needs a new set of output valves. I've done a couple of changes on the board, sort the bias out, sort the tremolo out, had noisy reverbs, which was a faulty cap, so we fixed that. I'll show you the cabinet, I'll show you how old this thing is. So this was a very, very early Rift conversion with the old logo badge on. I haven't seen one of those in a long time. He's fitted a Eminence Cannabis Rex speaker, which actually works really well in this amp. So yeah, very interesting. Anyway, so that's that. Haven't made much progress on the orange because I've been doing other stuff, but I've got to pull the board so I can replace this cap. Although it's so burnt out, I can't quite work out the value, so we need to look at that. I showed you the Americana that's done. That's we actually missed the courier today, so that's not going to ship until Tuesday now. So that's that, and then I've got to crack on with the rest of the pile of repairs and builds and everything else. Well, that's it then, guys. That's another episode done. I hope you enjoyed it. Got another bank holiday weekend. It's the King's Coronation, so we are closed on Monday. We're back in Tuesday. Crack on hard. Got a lot of work to do, but in the meantime, please give this video a thumbs up. If you've got any questions or comments, please put them down below. I love to read them all. I try and respond to all of them. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. It really does help the channel, so I really need as many of you as possible to hit subscribe, and then also the little bell icon, so you can get a notification every time that we post a new video. Enjoy the weekend, and I shall see you all next time.